15 minutes moving away from the hour. It's time now for our program, Policing with You. And we have in the studio Superintendent Cromwell Henry and Inspector Alec Edwards, who just reminded me a while ago of a situation who did the same thing. But we'll be back right after a quick word from our sponsors. And this morning program is coming to your compliments, National Bank. Don't touch that dial.
What you know, what you know, what you know, what you know about love. Why
Use your National Bank Visa debit card 5 times or more weekly for a chance to win a $500 shopping spree. Compliments of National Bank. So think twice the next time you want to use cash. Choose your National Bank Visa debit card instead, because you might be the next lucky winner. Use your National Bank Visa debit card every transaction for a chance to be the next lucky winner. Cashless SKN is our new lifestyle choice. National Bank, always here.
All right, welcome back. 17 minutes moving away from the hour. Let me say good morning to the officers in the studio. They are no stranger, but they're in different roles this morning. So, Superintendent is the guest this morning, and our host for the program is Inspector Alec Edwards. I almost gave you a promotion there, sir. Good morning.
I'll take it. Good morning, GQ. Good morning to those of you listening via radio and the internet. I am Alec Edwards, Inspector of Police and the host for today's program, Policing with You. The Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force continues to do its part to ensure that we are all ready for when our borders reopen. Not only are we doing this through our operations on the ground, but through the radio show where we are constantly updating the public on the regulations, explaining the various sections to ensure persons understand what it entails, and making the relevant officers available to answer the questions members of the public might have. This morning I have the pleasure to introduce the ever so reliable Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Divisional Commander for Division A and the Police Rep on the COVID-19 Task Force. Briefly extend salutation to the listening audience, sir.
Good morning, GQ. Good morning, Inspector, and good morning to your listeners. As usual, it's always a pleasure for me to be here to explain aspects of the law and to answer any question that you members of the public may have. So I look forward for this morning's interaction with you.
Thank you, Superintendent. The show takes its normal course, its introduction, and question and answer segment, closing, then I'll do my wrapping up. Let's go straight into the question and answer segment. Superintendent, for what you disclosed on Wednesday's daily briefing, new regulations have been produced and it expires on December 31st. Is this the first time the regulation will run for this long since the state of emergency began?
Well, yes, in my memory, I think the longest it would have run would have been 4 weeks or 1 month. I've never seen it run for 2 months. So, yes, it has been extended for another 2 months until the 31st of December. But based on the Honorable Attorney General's presentation in Parliament, it may not necessarily go that long. I think it was extended to facilitate the COVID-19 bill going through the process. That bill had its first reading at the last sitting of Parliament, and so at any time Parliament could be called and give that bill its second and third reading and pass into law, at which time the state of emergency would be suspended and everything else will go back to normal. So the Attorney General did indicate that Parliament can at any time suspend the state of emergency, notwithstanding that it has been extended until the 31st of December. So next week, Parliament could be called and pass the COVID bill and suspend the regulations and the state of emergency.
So are there any differences between this regulation and the one last one?
Well, no. This regulation, the current iteration of the regulation, is just an extension of the last set of regulations. So there has been nothing new added to it. So whatever were in the last one, just continue. And this is just a holdover until the COVID-19 regulation is passed. The COVID-19 bill would basically make all the provisions of the existing regulations law permanently. The regulations currently, they are emergency powers regulations, and they are published by the Attorney, His Excellency the Governor General. He's the one who publishes and approves these regulations. And so what the COVID bill would do when it becomes law, there will be no need for it to be an act of Parliament. And so there will be no need for the Governor General to publish regulations. And so we will be guided by that particular act. And it will contain all the provisions of the existing regulations, plus whatever other new provisions Cabinet deems necessary to manage the COVID-19 situation going forward.
So in other words, it adds some flexibility.
Right. For Parliament now to make the law permanently and to add whatever new provisions that they wish, based on the recommendations of the task force.
And going forward, we can't per se give an exact thing and say, okay, this is going to happen, so we can do this and do that. So we have to make sure that we have the opportunity to make adjustments whenever it's possible.
Get everything in, because there will not be any every 2 months or every 2 weeks.
Right.
You have a new regulation. Once it's passed into act as a law, then it will be permanent unless Parliament amends it. So there will not be any 2-week iterations as currently
before. Yeah. Okay.
Can you tell us anything else more about this bill?
You mean the COVID-19?
Well, the COVID-19.
Right. I'm saying it's called the COVID-19 Prevention and Mitigation Bill. Once it's passed, it will be an act. And what it does is basically it would contain all the protocols. It will give legal effect to all the protocols that we are recommending to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. So the wearing of masks, protocols, the social and physical distancing, all those things, they are currently in the regulations. And once the state of emergency is lifted, then those regulations will be of no effect. Right. And so the COVID-19 bill would make those things law permanently until they are repealed or revised. It would also have provision, give legal effect to the National Task Force and the compliance teams and all those mechanisms that are geared towards ensuring that persons comply with the regulations. It will give legal effect and authority to those entities.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. So basically, even when the state of emergency ends, some of these protocols that we now have to follow will become part of the group of laws that governs life as we know it.
Right, they'll be part of a body of laws on a permanent basis, yes.
Will the police be solely responsible for ensuring this new way of doing things? Is that here too?
Well, no. The police would have some responsibility to enforce the laws. I mean, that is the whole reason why you have a police force, to enforce law. So yes, of course, the police would have the responsibility to enforce the law, but the police would not be the sole responsibility. You would have compliance team. The regulation, the act would make provisions for compliance teams. You have the COVID task force. They would have some authority to enforce provisions in the act. So they will be basically complementing the police on the enforcement of the provisions of the new law.
What does the regulation say about the compliance team?
Well, the compliance team is empowered to, authorized to basically enforce the provisions of the regulation, the current regulations. The regulations say, for example, a restaurant or businesses must have certain protocols in place. You must have markers in the floor. You must not allow more than X number of persons in the business. You must ensure that persons wear masks. All the protocols that the law imposes upon the businesses, the compliance team's responsibility is to ensure that these businesses are complying with these protocols. So that if you go into a business place and you find the place is overcrowded, the law specify how many persons are permitted based on this floor space. If the compliance team finds that you are carrying more than you are permitted to carry, then they'll be empowered to enforce the law. That will be an offence under the law, and so they'll be empowered to enforce. Events currently are restricted and are only permitted with the permission of the Commissioner of Police. So the compliance team, they would also be empowered to visit these events whenever events are being held, anywhere where they see events being hosted, and ascertain whether or not the event is being hosted in accordance with the provisions of the permissions that were granted, or whether or not the event has permission. So if you have a party at your house and the compliance team enters and finds out that you do not have permission to have that party, they will stop the party and take whatever legal action against you that they see necessary.
And this is done without a warrant? They don't.
Yes. Because the regulation defines public place, and there's a special definition in these regulations for public place. And it includes any place where the public is invited, either explicitly or implicitly, whether for payment or otherwise. So if you have a party and the public is invited to your party at your house, then your house become a public place, because your gates are open, people could come in and have a drink and socialize in your yard. That's a public place. And so the compliance team could also enter, because the public is permitted entry. So they could enter and determine whether or not your party is being held in accordance with the law.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. Let us break at this juncture for a word from our sponsors. Upon our return, we'll open the lines and solicit calls in from the general public. Thank you.
Use your National Bank Visa debit card 5 times or more weekly for a chance to win
It
a
is
$500
important that
shopping
we
spree.
pay our mortgage on time at NAC for your future security and a peace of mind. It is important that we pay our mortgage on time at NAC. It's your responsibility and it's also mine. The management and staff at NAC wants to encourage all who holds a key to keep up to date, pay your mortgage on time for your future security. It is important that we pay our mortgage on time at NAC for your future security and a peace of mind. It is important that we pay our mortgage on time at NAC. It's your responsibility and it's also mine. Visit us at Park Range, Bastia, or call us today at 869-466-4701 for your future security. Easy, no man.
All right, welcome back to our program, Policing with You. In the studio with me this morning, we have Inspector Alec Edwards. He's the host this morning. And we have Superintendent Cromwell Henry. He's our guest. And we are looking at the borders and the new regulations that are in place and how we will be governed going forward as it relates to living and operating under COVID-19. The lines are open, 465-2555. And in the meantime, I kick back the program, so to speak, to Inspector Alec Edwards.
Thank you, GQ. Superintendent, before we went on our break, we was talking about the compliance team. Can you tell me anything else? What they do?
Well, those are the main functions, just as the name implies, to enforce and to ensure compliance. What the law also does, it protects them. You know, persons sometimes have a way of challenging authority. Someone, for example, if you go to the person's premises, they might decide, hey, you're not coming in here to tell me what to do in my place. Go up my house, or go up my yard, or go up my business. That would be considered an obstruction. The law protects them against that kind of action, and they can take action against a person if you refuse to allow them to do their work. You obstruct them from doing their work, you prevent them from doing their work, then that becomes an offense. And I think the law provides a $5,000 penalty just for telling them, go out my shop. You can't come in here, come tap, but you're expecting nothing. That is an obstruction of the officers in the execution of their duty, and you'll be liable to fine up to $5,000 just for doing that. So there's some protection to these persons. Once they come to your premises, once they come to your business, and they identify themselves, and they tell you why they're there, you're supposed to facilitate them and cooperate and comply with whatever instructions or directions or advice that they may give. A refusal to cooperate and you prevent them from doing what they are empowered to do, then you will be considered to be obstructing them and you commit an offense.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. Do you know the composition of the compliance team?
Well, the compliance team, there's just a group of persons who are hired for the purpose. So there's
probably is a task force.
No, the task force, the national task force is different. The national task force is comprised of representatives of all the major entities in the country that are responsible for anything to do with the administration of the COVID situation. Like you have the chairman of SCASPA. SCASPA plays an integral part because the current regulations provide that persons who are coming in the country must get the approval of the port authorities before they come. So SCASPA has to be an integral part. The chief medical officer, she's the medical authority in terms of quarantine and anything medical. So she's a part of the task force. You have the chief immigration officer. You could understand why the chief immigration officer has to be there because persons that are traveling in and out of the country, immigration is responsible for that. The chief of police and his representative, they're on the committee. You have the foreign affairs, permanent secretary in foreign affairs. As an associate to the committee, we have the CEO for the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. You know, those sort of entities, Defence Force, the commander of the Defence Force and his representative, they are represented. So all the major agencies within government are represented. That has anything to do with the control and mitigation of the disease. They are represented on this task force. The chairman is the National Disaster Coordinator.
Oh dear, Samuel. Thank you, Superintendent Henry. We spoke about the compliance team. How do they work in conjunction with the police?
Well, very closely. In fact, they are supervised by a police. They're supervised by a police sergeant, and they have police as part of their membership. So I think they're a member of the Defence Force, part of the team. There are some 1 or 2 police. So when they're going out, especially at nights, they would have either a member of the Defence Force or a police officer with them, just to give them additional support and protection while they execute their duty. So it's comprised broadly of civilians, but they are supported by
police and soldiers.
Members of the police force and the soldiers, yes.
So what can you say will change once commercial flights and ships begin coming in again?
Well, I think our COVID status will change. The CMO has said it, that once our borders are open and we begin to allow visitors and nationals to return, then we could expect that the COVID is also the COVID virus is also going to return, and so that would be our second wave once we have that re-entry of the disease. And so it's left to how we conduct ourselves. That would determine how bad it gets. If we follow all the protocols, persons who are returning comply with their quarantine, because we have measures in place to prevent the spread. That is why the bill is called Prevention and Mitigation Bill. So even though we know the disease is going to come, if it's properly managed, you follow all the protocols, all the prevention measures that are recommended, are legislated, then that would control the spread. So if a person comes in the country and they are positive, or they turn out to be positive eventually, once they would have followed the quarantine requirements, because once you come in, you're not going to come in and go home. You're going to come in and you're going to a place to be quarantined, and within that quarantine environment, whether you're quarantined at your hotel or you're quarantined at home, there are certain protocols again that you must follow. And once you follow all those protocols, and you're positive, you'll be detected and you'll be treated, and so hopefully you would recover and you will not infect anybody else. But if the protocols are not followed, someone comes into the country and they don't comply with their quarantine directions and instructions, or persons who are managing the quarantine sites do not follow the protocols and they're reckless or careless, then they become infected and they take home the disease to their parents or their family, or the person who comes into the country goes into a crowded place and infect other people, and then we start to have community spread. Then we have a problem. But as long as all the protocols are followed to the letter, then the re-entry should not cause a problem for us. It would come in, we would detect it, we will manage it, persons recover, and we continue coexisting with it. That is the ideal situation.
Yes, it is.
The person need to start to plan the vacation, adding a 14 days quarantine before, adding a 14 days quarantine after they would have returned.
Well, there's much debate in social media about whether or not the 14 days is necessary or whether we should have the 14 days quarantine. But I think you should be asking yourself, I mean, do we want to take that risk to have someone come in the country and let them go into society or into the community after 7 days, not being certain of their status? Because a negative result after 7 days doesn't guarantee that you're negative. And do we want to take the chance that to allow someone to integrate after 7 days, having produced a negative test, and then 7 days later, you find out that they're positive? Because in that intervening period, that 7 day period before they find out that they're positive, they could be spreading it. And then 7 days later, you find out that you're positive. You were spreading it 7 days ago. Do we want to take that chance? And we've had experience with that. Our 16 case, the CMO has mentioned this, our 16 case that came into the country was tested the day after arrival. She came with a negative test, was tested the day after arrival, and was negative, was tested day 14, the test was inconclusive, neither positive or negative. Was tested again on day 15 and was positive. In the meantime, that person infected someone else. So case 17 got infected from case 16 before the 14 days. So we know that a person could pass on the virus within the 14-day quarantine incubation period. And so we don't want to take the chance to allow someone to come into the country and release them within the 14 days, because we cannot say for sure that that person is negative, even though we would have had a negative PCR test. We cannot say for sure.
You have any callers?
Not at the moment.
Okay. You would have spoken and said that when you're coming, you won't go home. Then you changed and said that you can be quarantined at a quarantine site, and then you say you can quarantine home. Well, there's a difference between quarantine site, being quarantined and at a quarantine site and home.
Well, yeah, there are two options for quarantine. You could either quarantine at a designated facility, or you could quarantine at home. The CMO, in conjunction with the task force and the Commissioner of Police, would make that decision whether you quarantine at home or you quarantine at a designated site. In order to be qualified for home quarantine, you have to first apply for your home to be inspected and approved. So there must be some pre-approval process before you come into the country. You cannot come into the country and when you reach up the airport, you say, I want to go home. That would be too late. We can't go to inspect it to see if it's possible. So before you come into the country, you would have to go to the website and complete that application to quarantine at home. Once we get your application, the home would be inspected. So you must have somebody on the ground to give us access to the home. We will inspect the home, and if it passes, the standard passes the test for home quarantine, then you will get the approval and the conditions. One of the main conditions that goes along with that is that there must be some level of security. There must be some security at the home so that we are certain that you are not bringing people to your house or you're not leaving the house.
Okay.
Again, we've had experience with that in our first earlier in the pandemic, where persons who have been allowed to quarantine at home, and those persons who were in quarantine were seen all over town.
All right,
Some of them turned out to be positive.
Wow. We have a caller here. Let's see if they're still on the line. Good morning.
Yeah, pleasant good morning.
Pleasant morning.
Your compliance task force, you all said they were trained and so on, but some people that say that officers don't know how to speak to people. I witnessed it myself because I was at an establishment and they came and they were thinking everything seemed to be okay. And then, someone walking without a mask. But then the owner didn't see them. But the officer let off on the owner of the place in a manner, and they want me to charge you, blah, 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 blah. I said, what is that? The woman was so frightened, the man anyway said nothing. And the person went back up. But they were trained to do this and trained to do that, yes, but they don't in terms of speaking to people in a great manner, and then the whole process got in. I found it, Lord, that was rather unnecessary, the way he let off on that woman. And the woman just stand up there watching like, I had to laugh too, I didn't think he was really king. These officers, they need to know how to learn to speak to people and not just get off on people just because they're doing a job or they want to show themselves. Thank you.
All right. Any
Thank
response?
you for that, caller. Well, yes, caller, I agree with you that person should conduct themselves in a very professional way. And customer service was part of the initial training, their sessions, and that they were told that, you have to treat people with respect. You cannot, not because you have authority, not because you have this backing of the law, you go in people's place and bulldoze them. Of course, sometimes you might have to really behave a certain way if you get a certain reaction, but it still must be a controlled behavior. It must be professional. It could be firm, but you still maintain your professionalism and not to be disrespectful to your posts or to other persons. So yes, caller, I agree with you that behavior and conduct is very important to us, and we expect that these compliance officers to act in a professional manner.
All right, let's take this next call.
Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Yes, what I would like to know about these monitoring bracelets that some of the Caribbean countries are using to monitor people who they put in quarantine, and that would eliminate the expense of security. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I've heard of some countries that have these things because they have a problem with people coming out, walking out and going where they want to go when they should be in quarantine.
Right.
And so they put a bracelet either on their feet or the wrist, which monitors where they are. You heard of that?
Well, yes, caller. In fact, we are considering that is within our policy, within our recommendations to cabinet. So that is being considered as we speak.
Okay, because that would be so much
to develop
better.
the legal framework for it.
Yeah, that would be so much better and less expensive to people.
Yes, indeed. In fact, we even have a local company that provides that service that we have tested the equipment. So we have the capability already. It is just to develop the legal framework for it. So that is being that is in
will
process.
be very, very good.
And of course it will save a lot of money for persons. So yes, that is being looked at. There are other measures, of course, that is being looked at. Surveillance, remote surveillance, and all those things. Those would substitute for the physical guard.
It would be less expensive on people, man.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Let's take this next call. Good morning. You're live.
Good morning, GQ.
Hey, morning, Mr. Politics.
And good morning, Mr. Henry.
Good morning, sir.
How do you feel with you? And me and also there.
Good morning, sir.
Now, Mr. Henry, when you say the police got the backing of us, mean the police, the law got the backing of us. What do you mean by that?
No, I'm saying the compliance officers, they have the support of the law. They have the backing of the law. The law protects them. But we do not expect them to abuse that privilege, that authority that the law provides to them. They could come to your premises, they could inspect your premises and point out what is wrong and what you need to do. But we expect them to do it respectfully and not to create a confrontation knowing that the law going to protect them. Of course, if they...
What I was thinking, that the law be for back all of us.
Right. Well, yeah, but I was speaking specifically to the compliance officers. The law protects them in the execution of their duty. If they go to your premises to conduct an inspection, you cannot run them, you cannot refuse to cooperate with them, and you cannot do them anything that prevents them from doing their
next thing to
duty.
Up to this morning, I was listening to the news, and in Antigua, a young lady walk out of isolation and went on a job, go up in a hotel or restaurant, you know, and she got the COVID. And, you know, the situation of that now, it's over 300 something people was in that business, the place. And you know what could take place? So I just calling on the people of this country, especially those who do not want to abide by the law of the police. And I believe that under this COVID-19, when the border open up, I believe that you are supposed to get more strict on the law. I know that you all can't be here and there to see everything happen. And I believe that we are out here as public servants, community avoided citizens. I believe that we should look out for one another. Because this thing ain't going to be easy. Some of us don't got neighbor coming home from overseas. You know, maybe they want to quarantine home, but they're going to want to do as they like, left the home and go somewhere else between other people. And we as community got to look out for that. And when we see that, we're supposed to call the police. Right. Or call the LOC. Anyway, wonderful program. Good morning.
Hey, morning.
Bless up, man. Bless up.
Yes,
Thank you for your call.
Yes, gentlemen, in response? Or we should take a next call?
Yeah, we'll take a next call.
All right. Good morning, you're live.
Yes, good morning to you, gentlemen.
Yes, morning.
You know, sometimes we, the public, don't give the police and the government ideas as to what law or what things they need to implement by not following guidelines that they would have put in place for us to follow. People was being quarantined at home already at the start of the pandemic.
Yes.
Without them having to pay anything. But it's because they wasn't following the guidelines.
Exactly.
They are staying home. They're not staying home for the time they're asked to stay at home. And when you would hear when they have briefing and so when they go to people home to check on them, they're not home.
Right.
So if you're not following this thing, then the government has to do things, because then you see everybody looking for the government after things happen. Oh, the government now do nothing to help our way. And this and then do that. Yes, $600 or $500 might be hard on people. Yes, at this present time, it might be hard. But if people do what they're supposed to do, they would not be. They might not have $500 a reason to pay $500 or $600.
Exactly.
They had a news item on the thing. I think it was early this month, maybe late last month. In Grenada, we have a situation like that.
Right. Grenada, yes.
Yeah, when they came in, when they test him, and send him to self-quarantine. By the time the test come back and go positive, when they're looking for him, they can't find him.
He got a party.
Yeah. So it's we sometimes give the people in authority ideas and things to come up with to put against us.
But it's not ideas. We are forced to take measures to prevent what happened from happening again. Because we will be reckless if we know something happened and we allow it to happen again.
Right. Because if you're not protecting yourself, and by that thing you're protecting yourself, you're endangering other people. Okay, all right. You could stay home and manage yourself, but we don't want you coming home and endangering other persons. So then now the government has a problem. I said no, we don't want to.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
I think the definition for insanity, I think Albert Einstein gave this definition. If you do the same thing repeatedly and expect a different result,
you're crazy.
Then you need to check yourself. That's the definition for insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. So if the last occasion we allow people to crowd in at home and they walk out, why would we do it? Why would we do it again? We expect a different result now.
Yes, good morning, you're live.
Yeah, good morning, GQ. And good
sir.
morning, Superintendent Henry,
Yes.
and the young officer there.
Say good morning to
Mr. Henry,
say good morning to Ian Queely.
3 questions.
Ian Queely is listening to you
We
too.
can do them quick. I particularly want to know, why is it these people who work alongside the LOC to carry out the function of the government,
why they working in the night and going to functions? Because we need some of them down on the port of Friday night, you know.
Well,
and next thing again, appealing to the government and stakeholders to requisitions and divisions abroad. The $500 is really, really hard. Money ain't like on this issue no more. Nobody lost money. Money gone scarce. To reduce the quarantine money and try and do it as quick as possible to get some of these family back home to see their loved ones. Come on. We must do these things. Money scarce. Some of these men who on the road getting opportunity to make $1 and they working. They're going to work for money. Otherwise, they're going to go home. We got to do things right. And next thing I want to talk about, Henry, is those same people. When they call any Spanish and asking them any question, they're supposed to turn in the back like how they turn the back on these young police officers on Pan Road. And another thing I want to talk about, you is the regional commander. Why is it this young girl who I tell her about in Newton, she come from Jamaica, and the young girl here, she don't even straight. Last night she passed through the circus and a lot of men on the bench them saying by them down your right, you know what you're saying? What's here this country got laws, Henry? And if national security don't want to do the function, whoever that they charge to is problem here with me and you. Because when people here disrespect the law, I come for them in forces and beat them. Power. And we're not going to tolerate it. I'm glad she passed last night to the circus about after 11. And everybody see when me attack about.
All right, we get your point. We get your point. Inspector, Superintendent?
Well, with respect to your suggestion that the compliance team work at nights, I'm pleased to say that they're now working at nights. They were out last weekend, Friday and Saturday, in the night in Frigate Day. In fact, they even Saturday night they even stopped an event that was happening there that was not in compliance with the permission that was granted to it, and they stopped the event prematurely. Of course, there was some protest by the persons there, but the police was always available to support, and the event came to a successful closure. So the compliance team are now working on weekends and at nights. So we should see some more activity from them in the night.
All right. And Jamdong, thanks for your call, buddy. Inspector Alec Edwards?
Yes, sir. Superintendent Henry, you would have spoken about inspecting of homes and for quarantine purposes. Who inspects the home?
Well, the task force, the COVID task force is responsible for that. They would appoint persons to do that inspection from among the task force.
Okay. You also spoke before first caller. You would have indicated that you can be quarantined home and you can be quarantined at a designated quarantine site. Both places you will have to pay money.
Yes.
Which one is more expensive?
Both come with a cost.
Which one is more expensive?
Well, the security, the home one, based on the cost of the security, the current cost of security, the home one could run you a little more than the others. But as I say, we are exploring other options to the physical security that would bring the cost down drastically, and while maintaining the same level of security at the premises.
Thank you. Any more calls?
Well, we just had one there. We missed that one. They can always call back, 465-2555. We'll entertain 3 more calls before we wrap up the program. And thank you guys for listening to Policing with you today. In the meantime, go ahead, Inspector.
So do you want to tell the general public anything?
Well, as we prepare for the opening, we have several protocols to control the inflow of incoming passengers. Of course, persons are speaking about the 14-day quarantine, and if a person come in the country for vacation, why would they quarantine for 14 days? You don't have to quarantine for 14 days. You could come to the country for 7 days, and you're not quarantined for 14 days because you're only here for 7. But there are some protocols that we have for the hotels, for persons who are coming from countries which are considered high risk, and high risk countries are those outside the CARICOM bubble. There are a set of countries within CARICOM that has been deemed safe based on certain criteria, and so they're within that bubble. those persons who are traveling in country, to St. Kitts, there's no need for them to quarantine. So if you're coming from any of the country within the CARICOM bubble, you do not have to quarantine. Just present your negative test, do the screening at the airport, and you're free to integrate. If you're coming from outside of that bubble, you're considered high risk, and you have to stay at one of the approved hotels, one of the major hotels, Marriott, Royal St. Kitts, Park Hyatt, Four Seasons, those hotels. And within that first 7 days, the first 7 days of your stay, you could only participate in certain approved activities at the hotel. The hotel would have protocols to ensure that those persons who are considered high risk do not mix with the local population at the hotel. So there must be some separation of of persons who are high risk to the rest of the population. And so you could engage in those approved activities at the hotel for the 7 days. You cannot leave the compound, of course, but you would have to. You will not be confined to your room.
Right.
Whatever activities, entertainment, and whatever the hotel provides that is approved, you could participate in that. So your vacation will not be spent in your room locked away. If you're here for longer than 7 days, of course, if you're leaving within 5 days, then you leave when you're ready. But if you're here for beyond 7 days, then after 7 days, you do a test, another COVID test, and if you're negative still, then there are other activities that are approved outside the hotel. So you can go and approve excursion sites in approved transportation. So there will be some sites that will be approved, some tourist sites that will be approved for visit, like Kibble, Batty, Crimson Hill, those major tourist attractions. Of course, those sites would need to have protocols again to prevent the mixing of the high-risk persons with the local population. So those sites would have those protocols in place. And so you could engage in those excursions outside the hotel after 7 days. So from day 8 to 14, you could be engaged in those activities outside the hotel. So you're not confined to your room for 14 days.
Okay.
Right? And then after 14 days, if you're still here, you take another test, and if you're negative, then you could now integrate and go to the strip and go wherever you want.
All right. Let's take this call. Let's hope they're still there. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, well, I was quarantined for 2 weeks, for 14 days.
Yes.
What I think, I think they need to do a lot of changes with a lot of stuff with the quarantine.
Yes.
Number one, they have to make sure the rooms are visibly clean. Someone have to go over those when someone says they clean the room, a cleaning company says they clean the room, they have to go over, make sure that room is clean. And I told you, I was there, and I was very disappointed. Very disappointed.
You mean disappointed with the cleanliness of the room when you got there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And another thing. Well, I gave him some pointers what they need to do. They need to check daily on each occupancy in that room, because somebody can come in, have diabetes, have high blood pressure, go into a coma, don't wake up. Nobody would call and check on you to see if you're okay or nothing. You understand? So I think those are things that they need to look into, and at least have 2 bottles of water as they enter that room. 2 bottles of water in the refrigerator. And if they want to go and get water on their own, then they can do it after.
Yes.
But at least 2 bottles of water should be in the refrigerator. So when they come in, they can come in from a long exhausted trip. At least, okay, I can drink a bottle of water. I have water there in the refrigerator. I can drink. Okay? But as I say, quarantine is not bad. It's good. It's really good. But it's just that, to me, a lot of things that they wasn't prepared. For, things that I see. And as I say, for people to order, thank God I have family members to come and give me my food every day. Thank God to Miss Simmons. Mary Simmons, every day she bring my food. Every day she bring my food. My breakfast, I had another friend, every morning she bring my breakfast. Donna Brown. Every morning she brought my breakfast for me. Good. And then what they can do, they can have flyers with the different restaurants. Someone can call in and order. I watch a little boy, he about maybe 6 or 7 years old, come down that stairs every morning with a cup of soup to have for his breakfast. Every morning. I look at this little child and I say, oh my God. But as I say, it's a lot of things they can do differently. Yes. Especially if parents have 2 and 3 kids coming in, have breakfast for the kids. have something for, like in the hot cereal they can do with milk, or, have something for the kids to have. I mean, thank God I didn't have any kids, but as I say, thank God I had people who was reaching out to me. And Sister Agatha, Sister Jasmine brought me a Bible. I forgot my Bible. Thank God for each and everyone who was there for me, and God bless each and everyone. And as I say, it's good to quarantine.
Yes.
It's really good to quarantine, because at least, you're getting touch of that person, a hold of that person who is coming with the virus, or who picks up the virus while they are in quarantine too. And as I thank God, God was on my side. Blessings each and everyone. Good program.
Right. Thank you. Well, I'm glad despite your
challenges,
that the total experience was not that bad, and you see the importance of quarantine. Quarantine was not intended to punish you. It is a public safety measure to prevent the spread of the virus, because you don't know your status when you come. Even if you come with a negative test, you don't really know your status until that incubation period would have passed. And so the purpose of the quarantine is to be able to detect persons who may have the virus and not know, so that we prevent them from transmitting it to other persons. So we take your point of those small areas that we could improve upon, and I'm certain that with the reopening of the border, things will change, and we will try to make it as much more comfortable for persons as we can.
All right, we're going to wrap up the program now. Inspector.
Anything in closing, Mr. Henry?
Well, in closing, I just want to again remind persons that within the next 10 days, within at least one more week, the borders will be open. We will see an influx of visitors from high-risk countries. This means that our risks here locally go up. And so we ask persons to really adjust to the new lifestyle that they will be forced to. The wearing of masks, we treat it casually now because we think that we are low risk, but our risk is going to go up. And so we hope that persons would take the recommendations more serious and wear your mask, maintain your social distance, avoid crowds. We see persons are clamoring to go to social events, and when they get to these events, they're not taking any precautions. They would sanitize their hand, but as soon as they get into the party or whatever the event is, they take off their masks and they're in each other's face. That is really a recipe for spread, and we ask that persons really take the protocol, the social distancing protocol, very serious, and to keep themselves safe. So I want to wish us all a good day, and remember to always wear your mask.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. Jukio, thank you for being the very reliable moderator that you are. For my guest host, Mr. Henry, I want to thank you. I know you're a very busy man. For the management and staff of ZIZ, I want to say thank you for you guys for having us here every Thursday. For the persons who would have called in and contributed to this show, I want to thank you for so doing. Without your contribution, this show is pointless. For the person who are thinking about calling and did not call, I want to welcome you. I want to encourage you to call. Thank you again for listening, and see you guys next week, Thursday.
Say what you think, what you think, what you think, what you think about justice.
Use your National Bank Visa debit card 5 times or more weekly for a chance to win a $500 shopping spree. Compliments of National Bank. So think twice the next time you want to use cash. Choose your National Bank Visa debit card instead, because you might be the next lucky winner. Use your National Bank Visa debit card every transaction for a chance to be the next lucky winner. Cashless SKN is our new lifestyle choice. National Bank, always here.
Improve your energy levels. Stay sharp on your feet. Drastically improve your performance. Burn fat, all while lowering health risks. Have a cup of coffee today at Coffee Shop Portzante. Coffee Shop Portzante, now serving happiness.
At FarmCare Pharmacy, we continue to expand our offerings to meet our customers' needs. We are home to your favorite products and brands, including Alcolado, bodybuilding supplements, Canadian healing oil, Limacol, Ferrol, SSS Tonic, Smoker's Extra Hard Toothbrush, Kayla Stockings, and many more. Stop by our 4th Street store from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Or visit our Bird Rock branch 9 a.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday, on Sundays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We are the preferred pharmacy in St. Kitts and Nevis and are committed to serve you better. Farm Care, for your wellness, comfort, and privacy.
They're the best I know. That's the only place.
All right. Good morning to Naima, who's on the line here with us. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, GQ. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
I feel a little sad not to be in studio. You know, I love to see you in the studio.
Yeah, I know. But hey, I'm glad